Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Grace. Today we're going to talk about how to increase your Chinese vocabulary. I will start with how to create opportunities to learn more new words, and secondly, I'm going to share with you how to memorize new vocabulary effectively. And in the end, I will show you my vocabulary notebook, which I use to build my English vocab. I will tell you the way I note down new words and the advantage of this method. So remember to keep watching to the end. Let's get started. So to increase your vocabulary, the first step is to create the opportunities to get new words. I'm going to tell you some common ways to acquire new words, and also I will show you a good methods to focus on the new words that you need. The common ways include taking courses, reading books, listen to podcasts, and watching TV shows, etc. These activities can expose you to new content in this language. You can find some new words that you want to learn from these sources and write them down in your notebook or type them into your phone to collect them. And the good method I wanted to share with you guys is doing language exchange. Even if you can't find a native speakers in your area, you can try to find one online. During the language exchange, you will find out that there are some words that you want to express but you haven't learned them yet. Then you can ask this question. Something 的中文怎么说? Something 的中文怎么说? To get the new words from the native speaker. For example, if you have no idea how to say grandfather in Chinese, but you do know how to say father, which is 爸爸, then you can ask the person saying 爸爸的爸爸的中文怎么说? 爸爸的爸爸的中文怎么说? Which means how do you say fathers in Chinese? And then you will get the new words 爷爷. Okay, these are the ways you can get new vocabulary. After you have the new words that you want to learn, then the second step is to find a way to record these words and review them. I will give you two methods for your reference. You can pick one which works for you, or you can create your own way. The first approach is what I use. I collect new words in a small notebook. And I have a daily routine to review them once before I go shower. Besides, I will review several pages of vocabulary that I learned previously. Reviewing is a very important part because if you don't let these new words show up in your mind repeatedly, it's very easy to lose them. The second way is for people who like to learn by listening. You can use your phone to record the new words you learned that day and also make a daily routine to listen to them, like this. 加油加油默契默契面子面子加油加油默契默契面子面子 And don't forget to review the words you've just learned 1 or 2 days ago. And to memorize the new words better, simply having this kind of repetition is not enough. You have to include the new information into your mind. In other words, you have to categorize and organize the new words you learned and connect them with the concepts and ideas you have already known to help them stick into your mind. To do so, I'm going to give you 3 effective ways to achieve that. First is memorizing the general meanings of the characters. To increase your Chinese vocabulary, this is a super important part because in Chinese, a syllable could correspond to many different meanings, such as 智 has the meanings of intelligence, ambition, and to treat someone's illness, etc. However, written Chinese characters can separate these meanings. In most cases, a Chinese character corresponds to a meaning, or you can say a group of similar meanings. So after you learn the meanings of Chinese characters, then you can make sense of the new words and memorize them more easily. Take 智 as an example. After knowing the character 智 has something to do with intelligence, then when we learn the new words like 智力 and 智商, then it's much easier to remember these new words. But just a reminder, not all the characters only correspond to some similar meanings. Sometimes one character can accord with different separate meanings. The second way to help you organize the new words into your mind is by finding the patterns and rules of Chinese words. This will help you acquire new words with less effort. But first, I want to let you know that you don't have to force yourself to analyze every new word. That is quite painful. The thing is that after you know a certain amount of words, you will gradually get a sense of it. However, I have good news for you. I summarized some of the rules so that you can have a general understanding by watching this video. After knowing these rules, you can use this knowledge to help you memorize new vocabulary. In Chinese, one character can be a word. Especially in ancient Chinese, one-character words are the majority. But nowadays, there are more and more two-character words. However, the number of Chinese words that consist of 3 or more characters is smaller in comparison to the previous two. One-character words like 水, 书, 跑, 美, etc. Two-character words can be formed by several ways. For example, adding a prefix or a suffix to form a word, such as 第一, 第二, or 孩子, 女子. Another way is by combining two characters that have their own individual meanings into a word, and usually the meanings of that word is related to the meanings of the characters. For example, 出众 is outstanding, and the character 出 has the meanings of going out or coming out. 众 related to crowd, so you can easily understand why 出众 means outstanding. This is a common way to create new words in Chinese, so this is why the previous tip, memorizing the general meanings of the character, is so important for remembering new words. In addition, a few two-character words have characters that only have meaning when they used together. Their individual characters have no meaning. You have to memorize them as a unit. For instance, 蜘蛛, 葡萄. Okay, the third way to let new words stick into your mind is by imagining you using these words. Try to let these words be relevant to you, connect it with your life. For example, if I learn a new English word, intrigue, then I will think about what kind of scenario I could probably use this word. Like if someone asks me why I read so many books about linguistics, then I could reply, because I'm intrigued by this subject. Then this word somehow become relevant to me, so I can remember it longer. Next, I'm gonna show you my vocabulary book. Here, you can see how I recalled my new vocabulary. You might notice that I won't write down the translation of the word. At the beginning of learning a new word, I will check the translation of that word and then write it down without the translation but with at least an example, because this can help me not rely on my first language. And when I review the words, I can try to recall the meanings of them, and most of the time, the example sentences provide me enough clues to think of their meaning. And in this case, I immerse myself entirely in this second language. So for me, this is quite an effective way. You can try it. Okay, that's all for today. If you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more information. And if you want to learn some daily spoken Mandarin, you can follow my Instagram and Facebook page. Looking forward to see you there, and I will see you next time. Bye!